It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day for a neighbor. Won't you be mine? Will you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Yo, yo, yo. Hello and welcome. It's Chris Amore with the Chris Amore Show. Gotta have some kind of name for it. I'll figure it out. Like and subscribe to this channel, the Chris Amore channel. You get everything from old recordings, rehearsal videos, demos, album cuts, rarities, little update videos, and now I've got this new thing. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. This is episode 2. It is May 3rd, 2022. Yeah, I mean, I watched the last one. It's a little different, given the monologue and then going back and actually listening to it. I realized on the playback on that one that I kind of started off a little bit on a negative note. I was depressing myself a little bit. Yeah, it's just maybe one of those times in life, but I guess it only gets better from here, so maybe we'll see a progression as we go. I hope so anyway. And as far as the content, I'm not exactly sure where I'm going with this, other than that it's just a kind of stream of consciousness thing where I just start yakking, and we'll cover some things that I've been thinking about or that I've been working on. I think sometimes the best way to get things done is to formulate your ideas by talking about them, and then it kind of lights a fire under your ass a little bit and gets you going. So, not to be negative anymore. That last one, I watched the beginning of it. I was like, why would anybody watch this? But actually, if you watch it through, by the end of it, I'm pretty happy about a lot of stuff. And there's a lot to be happy about, because things are going in a good direction. I've got my son here at the house, and things are nice and quiet. I live in this little kind of pseudo-country home. I have a roommate, so maybe that's why I'm talking quietly. I don't want him to think I'm in here talking to myself. I can hear him in his room talking, but he's actually talking to another human being on the phone. And I don't have to feel so bad, because I'm not really talking to myself. I'm talking to the whole world and all of posterity, right? And I took a shower today, so it feels good to take a shower. Trying to find some time to go get a haircut. My hair is out of control. I never had good hair, even when I was young and had all of it. But now that I've gotten old and I'm starting to lose it, it looks even less purposeful. It's a little more accidental. Sometimes hair is just a compromise. And I've always felt that that's where the mullet came from. A lot of people think that the mullet was an intentional hair design. But see, I remember the 80s. Like these millennials, when they, back in the early 2000s, started cutting these mullets into their hair thinking that they were doing something really hip. But the mullet was never really meant to be. It was just kind of a compromise between you and Dad, because Dad didn't want you to have long hair, and you wanted to have long hair, and so you cut it short in the front, and you grew it long in the back, and you tucked it into your shirt, and you had it, your mullet kind of going down the back of your inside your collar there, and Dad didn't see it, and you sat there eating breakfast, with your mullet kind of tucked into your shirt, and you had everything else nice and short. And as soon as Dad left to go to work and you went out to the bus stop to go to school, you kind of flipped out your mullet, and you were on your way. You had your long hair. It's like instant long hair. And that's the truth of the mullet, and a lot of people don't know about that. But I remember, because I had one. And before I had a mullet, I actually had a rat tail. Remember those? That was, 1983, 84. They had those rat tails, and if you were cool, you had one. But you couldn't have it, like, right in the middle. It had to be on one side. Like, you had it, like, I think you had it on the left side. Because, you know what they say about you if you have it on the right side. It's kind of like the earring thing. Oh my gosh, he has an earring in his right ear. Oh my God. It's like George Michael had an earring in his right ear. And verboten. But I actually have a interesting little George Michael anecdote. About 5 years ago, when my dad was still alive, and I was taking care of my dad, I was living in his house, and I was up all night one night. I had a hard time sleeping in that bed for some reason. It was really uncomfortable. And I was sitting up, kind of surfing YouTube, and I was watching different music videos from the 80s, and I thought, I'll look up George Michael, why not? And so I looked at, for one thing, I always, roommate's up. I might have to get back to you. It's my George Michael story. Alright, I'm back. I have to be a little stealthy because I live in this, kind of smallish place and have a roommate. And you know how it goes when you have roommates. Things aren't always smooth sailing, and sometimes you have to mind your P's and Q's, dot your T's and cross your I's, right? So try not to cross my eyes. Anyway, so George Michael. I'm at my dad's house, and I'm watching MTV, and I'm George Michael. Okay. So I always wanted to know what that one song was. That you know which one I'm talking about, right? The saxophone one that every band covers when they play at the boardwalk. Okay. So I finally found out what it was. It was like, what was it, like Careless Whisper or something like that. So I watched that video, and then I watched a Wham video. And I'm already starting to get kind of self-conscious. I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm watching George Michael videos. Like, how boring does life get when you get to that point, right? But this is all just my ego talking because, I'm a musician. George Michael's an artist, okay? Give it a listen. Come on, give me a break, right? So I'm listening to it. And let me tell you something. I used to talk so much shit about George Michael when I was younger, all the way through school. All the way through high school. People would talk about him and they'll be like, George Michael, get the F out of here, So I wanted to give it a fair listen. And I watched about 3 or 4 videos. And by the 4th video, I got done watching it. And I just had to admit to myself, wow, George Michael's a genius. I actually said it out loud. I don't know why. I just kind of realized, like, he's got some talent, and he did something pretty cool. And the next day I read in the news that he died, and I was like, oh my gosh, George Michael died. And I had this fleeting thought for a second that me, this kid who thought he was too cool for to appreciate George Michael in any way, and talked all this crap all the way through school, whenever his name came up, I'd be like, the earring in his right ear, whatever. So once I finally admitted that what he did was of quality, the guy could just go ahead and die. He had accomplished all that he needed to accomplish in life, because that one grouchy little kid who was always talking shit about him finally admitted that he was good, and there was nothing else to live for after that. That's all. That's the end of my George Michael story. Yeah, he gave up the ghost after I accepted him. So there he is. Old Georgie Porgy. Anyway, what else is good right now? I've been cooking a lot. That's one thing I've been doing. That's one of the good things about being poor, is that you cook a lot. Now, I'm not going to complain about, being poor, because I've been rich. I've been rich and I've been poor. I've been on both sides of it. When I was young, I had a lot of money. Way too much, more than what I knew what to do with, and I blew through it. It's gone. Okay? And now, my new life's goal is to try and build my fortune back. Oh yes, I will be back. One day, I'll have my fortune again. And, but for now, I'm back in the poorhouse. But I got a nice place, so I'm not complaining. But one of the good things about not having a lot of money is that it's this kind of challenge to try to get through the next 2 weeks before your next paycheck and be able to kind of like stretch that food out, and make it last. And so I've been making all these concoctions. I've got this rice thing I've been making. I never had cooked rice before. And actually I'm just using instant rice right now. So maybe I'll graduate to the real stuff. But, it's a cheap way to eat grub, and I love to fry things, because most of the jobs I've had working in kitchens is like frying stuff. And so I've been frying all these veggies, like caramelizing all these veggies, just different mixtures with different seasonings and stuff. And I'll have some meat. Lately I've been buying the cheap meat because, gas is expensive and money is scarce. So I've been buying the drumsticks. Now, I was buying the chicken breasts, but now I'm buying drumsticks. And so sometimes, you'll take a bite and you're like, oh, that part doesn't belong in there. But so it goes. But I've been making all these concoctions, and I've got this one that's a rice concoction I've been making. And then I've got this potato concoction that I make. And then I make some of the best spaghetti you've ever had in your life. I'm not going to say I actually make everything from scratch. One of the things I'll do is I'll take like a canned food like chili or something, and I'll just add all this stuff to it. And I'll make this deluxe, whatever it is, I just make it deluxe. And then I'll make a lot of it, and so I can eat off it for several days. So that's how I've been eating lately, and I've been cutting my food costs down because I've been cooking at home, so I'm not eating any fast food. It has been maybe 4 months, 5 months since I've had fast food. So that's good. And I haven't drank soda for over a month. And I've actually been losing weight. So I just took a shower a little while ago. Well, not too many people get to see me naked these days, but poor people. I got to see myself in the buff, and I'm actually losing weight. I'm looking better for sure. There's a few areas that kind of need a little more trimming, but exercise is the key for all of that, which I'm not really getting any exercise. That's going to change soon. See, that's another good thing about making these videos. I have to admit certain things to myself. Maybe I need to get some sunlight. Maybe I need to get out and get some exercise. These things will come in time. There's a couple other things I'm working on in the meantime. One of which is my financial situation. And so I talked about crypto on my last little, I'm going to call this a podcast. What are we? What are we right now? What is this? I haven't yet figured out what our relationship is here. So, we're in that what are we phase, okay? and I'll just call it a podcast. Okay, so I guess we're dating. Where was I? I lost my train of thought there. What was I saying? I was talking about losing weight. So, exercise, losing weight. I've been working every night. And that's good in some ways, not so good in other ways. I did refer to myself as a wage slave the other day. And yeah, there's some truth to that. I'm a wage slave. But there's a freedom in that because I'm not supervised at work other than the cameras that are watching me. And one of the things I do is I listen to an iPod, and I listen to my phone. I put YouTube on. I listen to all kinds of podcasts, and I listen to a lot of material that's like instructional material. I listen to some audiobooks. I'm trying to develop some passive skills as I'm working. I'm learning about the crypto thing. Oh, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about crypto. Yeah. So one of the things I'm focusing on is my financial future. And in the last podcast, that's where we were. In the last podcast, I was talking about my foray into crypto, and I didn't really get into it very much. I didn't want to get into it because I didn't want to expose my ignorance. Actually, I'm learning quite a bit. I've been following Cultivate Crypto and Dollar Cost Crypto. These two guys, they're really, really great guys. They're really cool. And nobody really wants to hear about it. I have an IRA, and I have a guy who looks after it for me. And every year at the end of the year, I take a minimum yearly distribution. That basically what they do is you have to withdraw a certain amount every year so they can tax you on it. And so you're paying, a certain amount in taxes every year. And I talked to the guy and I said, usually what I do is I roll over my distribution into a Roth IRA. And so, my roommate's up and about again. I have to be quiet. I don't want to be too loud. I'm trying to draw attention to myself here. So anyway, this Roth IRA. Usually I just roll over the money into my Roth IRA. Well, this is the first year I decided to I wanted to roll half of it over into crypto. And this guy, this grown man, this boomer, threw a fucking fit when I told him I wanted to roll over half of it into crypto. He's like, you don't know what you're doing. You're going to get destroyed. You're going to get wrecked. Thanks for the confidence, brother. This guy's telling me I'm going to lose all my money. And so I asked him a little bit. I said, well, have you ever invested in crypto? He's like, oh yeah, I invested in it. I lost all my money. So there it is. I tried to explain to him a little bit of my strategy, and I told him, because he was saying, well, Bitcoin's going down and da-da-da-da-da, or, we're in a, crypto's in a bear market. And, this was back in December, and crypto was going down. Bitcoin was going down. Don't really know that it was in a bear market, but he's talking about technical analysis. He said, I look at all the charts, and, you don't know what you're doing. You're just, flying by the seat of your pants. You don't know anything about this stuff, and you're following these guys on YouTube, and they don't know what they're talking about. They don't do technical analysis. I do technical analysis. I've been doing it my whole life, and you're going to lose all your money. And I just realized that this guy is just butthurt that he's not getting to invest the money for me because he's not gonna make as much if I'm investing in crypto, right? And if I all of a sudden realize that crypto pays off better than the equities market, he's gonna be not investing very much of my money. And so he was pretty upset. And I mean, this guy was really throwing a fit. It was I just had to laugh when I was listening to him. And he didn't even know what a stable coin was. Okay, so this guy's talking about how he got wrecked, And since he got wrecked, that means, of course I'm going to get wrecked because he knows all this stuff about technical analysis and I don't. So I'm going to get wrecked. Well, the truth is I have gotten wrecked a little bit since I've been in. I started out really good, but I've had to take a lot off the top just to pay my bills because I barely make enough to squeak by every month. And if anything comes up, I have to take it out of my crypto. So I end up putting money in, but then I take money out. And I'm kind of trying to figure out my balance there. I mean, I'm losing some of my position, which is not good. Shoot, I don't know if I want to really talk about the coins I'm investing in. These are the kind of things that divide us right here. Like anybody who's into crypto, like they get real tribal about, what cryptos they're investing in. If they're like I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, or there's some people that they're really into Ethereum, and then there's some people that just want to invest in shit coins, and then you got your Hex community, and then you got the people who hate them, and you got your XRP people, and you got your Cardano folk, and so whenever you tell people what you're invested in, they judge you on that. And it's funny, like you'd think that all these crypto dorks would stick together, but they don't. They just tear each other down. So I'm reluctant to talk about any of the things I'm investing in. But if you want to know, if you were to follow Cultivate Crypto and Dollar Cost Crypto, at this point I pretty much do a lot of what they say, because the truth is I haven't had a lot of time to really investigate and do a lot of research. I've done some. I try to research this stuff as much as I can, but when you work every single day, it's kind of hard to do. So I'm listening to YouTube content, and then when you go on on a search for, like, if you want to search out a coin, say you want to look at Polkadot and find out what it's all about, and you listen to it, you're kind of hearing it from their perspective. But I think the best thing to do if you're into crypto is to find some people that you trust and that you appreciate their judgment. That people who know what they're doing. You need to find some people who know what they're doing and follow them for a little while. And if their advice turns out to be bad advice, well, then stop following. But so far, these guys have not yet led me wrong. They have not led me astray. And so I have been keeping up with the Moon Gang, is what they call them. And I like them. They're a good community and a good group of guys. And Charlie and Miguel they're great people. They're a little bit dorky, but I think that everybody in crypto is a little bit dorky. And so, it's kind of it's a little bit of a cult of dorks, but I fit right in with all that, right? It's kind of like being a musician in a way. Being a musician is a cult of dorks too. But they're a cult of dorks that sometimes convince people that they're not so dorky. So this new podcast is pretty cool. Okay, I'm trying to stay positive here. Sometimes things suck, and you have to work through it. And as you work through it, you gotta focus on the good and look at the things around you that are positive. I'm reading books. There's a lot to be happy about when you're reading books, because books are like, this is going to be the ultimate dork comment right here. Books are like the ultimate friends. Books don't let you down. It's kind of like music in a way. Music can be your friend. For me, listening to Frank Zappa's music throughout my life has been like a friend to me. These are lonely people's friends, books and music. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people that want to put some shame on all that. But there's no reason to feel shameful about befriending your media. And for me, my paintings are friends. I got one behind me right here. I don't want to take it down, and I don't want to bring the computer up. Part of the reason you can't see anything in this room right now is because my room's a little bit messy. I might have to take a break a little bit later just to kind of move some stuff around. Yeah, sorry, I'm doing some, oh my gosh. I'm doing some stuff on my laptop here while I'm talking. Sorry, don't mean to not give you my undivided attention. I'm gonna disconnect something here. Oh, I lost it. Okay. Everything's good. Hold on. 1 second here. We are live. Yeah, so what books have I been reading? Let me talk a little bit about books. I don't know if I want to get into these. Okay, this one here. This was The Anglo-American Establishment. This is Carol Quigley. And this was recommended by Jay Dyer. I spoke a little bit about Jay Dyer on my last episode. Jay Dyer's a conspiracy guy, among other things. And so this Anglo-American Establishment. See, I did a really poor job of explaining Jay Dyer last time. I started to talk about him. And I talked a little bit about his conspiratorial bit. But this is kind of the beginning of it. The Anglo-American Establishment. This is where you begin when you start to wake up, get woke. Not woke in the way of, woke joke. Not quotation marks woke, but real woke. You start to wake up to the realities of our culture and our history. And without getting too much into it, this talks about the very rich, very British bankers of the late 19th century. And we're going back to Lord Milner and, the Rothschilds are in here. Start talking about the Rothschilds, people kind of shut you out because it's now you're getting really conspiratorial, right? Well, these are all the central bankers who created a circle of influence, and they went and colonized South Africa. And these are the people who are responsible for all the apartheid stuff down in South Africa. They started a war down there, and a lot of people were killed. These were the colonizers. These were the imperialists from Britain, okay? But as this group, as the Milner group grew, and they grew their circle out, they had an inner circle and an outer circle. And they were all very rich, and all these people, there was a lot of kind of arranged marriages going on, probably a lot of unintentional inbreeding going on to some degree, and a lot of money flowing around. And this book gets really boring in parts, and it follows these sort of family trees and these correspondencies and these connections between people and how they were placed in certain jobs. They all went to the same universities, and they were all appointed. And this is how if you want to talk about the Illuminati, a lot of people look at the Illuminati as this kind of real hocus pocus kind of, numinous sort of cloud in the background, with these secret shadowy people, right? Well, this is them. This is where they come from. You want to know their names? They're in this book, The Anglo-American Establishment. You want to know who the real Illuminati is? It's in this book. And there's moments where it gets exciting, but a lot of it's just lists of names after names after names. and it talks about how all these people know each other, and a lot of what they did, a lot of where how their influence permeated our culture and moved to the United States from Britain and formed the central banking apparatus and the intelligence apparatus that we have here in America. You read this book. Look at how thick this book is. It's over 1,000 pages. Tragedy and Hope. Okay, so Jay Dyer has a whole series on tragedy and hope and the Anglo-American establishment. Okay, so Tragedy and Hope talks about how these people, these lists of names and all these people, how they had influences in the world wars and how they basically formed the structure of our financial system, the world financial system, the Western world financial system, and brought about NATO and the CIA and all this stuff. And so it's in there. I mean, if you like this kind of stuff, I mean, these books are these guys. This guy's, by the way, same writer, same author. Okay, both of these books. Okay, he's not a conspiracy theorist. He actually is part of this elite group, and he was a mentor to Bill Clinton. And you ever heard of what is it? The Rhodes Scholars. Okay, so Rhodes, Cecil Rhodes. Okay, he's a character in all of this, and so Bill Clinton's a Rhodes Scholar, and was Rachel Maddow's a Rhodes Scholar as well, right? Okay, so kind of strange, these people who enacted genocide in the early 20th century, late 19th century, it is the early 20th century that started happening. Yeah, so Rachel Maddow, Bill Clinton, yeah, they carry the torch for Cecil Rhodes and bring his name into the present. Genocidal maniac, right? So that's interesting stuff. And this book, Tragedy of Hope 101, this is really a good place to start if you don't want to read this big old book. It basically condenses all the material. This one's written by Joseph Plummer. Tells you everything that's in Tragedy and Hope, all the important information, because Tragedy and Hope digresses into economics and history and all kinds of other stuff. So Carroll Quigley was a historian. He just happened to be a historian who was linked up with the these secret societies, these central bankers. Okay, so he was a part of all that, and he was a college professor, but he was a historian, and so all this stuff is it's not conspiracy, it's just history. And the problem is if you get to know all this stuff and you start talking about it, people will accuse you of conspiracy, as if that's a bad thing. As if being a conspiracy theorist is a bad thing. As if history just unfolded randomly, without any design, without any sort of coercion from people with a lot of money. It's kind of funny to actually believe that, that all this stuff happened by accident. The narrative of history and the unfolding of events being just completely accidental when there's people in the world with billions of dollars. So it's pretty interesting. Here's another one recommended by Jay Dyer. David Rockefeller's memoirs. It's kind of funny, actually. I didn't get very far. So far I'm only 30 pages into it, but it's a little bit revealing. He said, oh, well, my father was accused of da-da-da-da-da, and my grandfather was accused of da-da-da-da-da, and he pretty much just lets out all the dirt. So if you want to know all the dirt on the Rockefeller family, David Rockefeller lived to be pretty old, and his memoirs say a lot. Even when he's not trying to say it, he says it. So he brings a lot of that stuff to light. I'm going to take a break here real quick. Sorry, my back was hurting there for a minute. It happens when we get old. Okay, so this other book I've been reading. Okay, so just so you know, I mean, like, I'm sort of at different stages in all these books. Like, I said it in my last episode that I had a queue of maybe 30 books I've been reading. And I kind of want to get a little bit into all of them. Well, I mean, I'm trying to finish reading all of them. But what I'll do is I'll pick one up and I'll read like a couple chapters. Sometimes just one chapter, 10 pages, 30 pages, whatever. And then I'll move on to another book. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm trying not to let my mind get too, like, stuck on one track. Where a lot of times when you read a book, like if you were to read Tragedy and Hope, if I read this whole book all the way through, start to finish, without reading anything else in the interim, my mind would get stuck on that mode and I would start thinking, I'd probably start tripping out, and thinking everything revolves around these ideas. And I don't like that. I like to have different ideas going on simultaneously and have a lot of things concurrent, because I can think on multiple tracks, and I have a tendency towards complexity, and so I don't like to be on one track. And so throughout most of my life I would read just a book all the way through, and then I would pick the next one. But the problem is there's certain books I would never get to, and one of the books is this one right here, another really thick book. This is Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations. Always wanted to read this. I bought this book 20 years ago. It's still in pretty good shape because I never picked it up. Okay, but now I'm reading through Wealth of Nations. I'm only 27 pages into it, okay? But I'm reading it. I never got 27 pages into this book before because it's fucking boring, alright? But there's actually some interesting things in there. And the chapter that I'm on right now, that I'm getting ready to start, is chapter 4 of the origin and use of money. Now, to me, that's really interesting. The part in here where it talks about the division of labor, and it talks about the guy who makes nails, or the people who make pins, and all the different, operations that go into making pins. It's a little bit boring, reading about making pins. You got to realize that this book was written hundreds of years ago. Okay, back in the time when making pins was about all you could make, because they weren't making computers yet. When did this book first come out? It doesn't say. It's saying 1976 or whatever. This book was written. When was this book written? I'll look it up. But anyway, the idea is I wanted to learn about economics. I wanted to learn about what's in the Wealth of Nations. But I would never do that if I was just decided to read it front to back. I would never read the freaking book. And so, Wealth of Nations, okay. I would never read that book, okay, if I had to sit and read the whole freaking thing. But since now I've got a queue, and I read 30 books at a time, and I just read, 1776 was when it came out. Okay, that's like the beginning of our country. Yeah, so since I have a queue and I can read 10 pages of it and put it down, I'm actually going to read it. It's going to take me a little bit longer, but at least it'll get done. And at whatever point I want to really delve into it, I can put all the other books aside and read only the, just spend more concentrated time on the parts that are more interesting to me, not the parts that are about the pens, maybe the parts that are about the origins of money, which is more interesting to me, because I've been interested in money and finances and economics because I'm trying to improve my darn situation. Okay, the only way you're going to do that is to focus on it. And part of the problem I have been so shitty with money over the years is because I hate business. I'm not a good businessman. I've been a musician my whole life, and I didn't start out very good at mathematics to begin with, and I just never got into accounting or marketing and stuff like that. To me, all that stuff is just, I don't want it. But now I'm starting to see the value of it as I'm getting older, and I need money because I'm gonna need to retire at some point. So anyway, this other book, totally unrelated to Jay Dyer, just like Wealth of Nations. That one wasn't recommended by him. Not all my books are recommended by Jay Dyer. Just a few hundred of them. This one here, The Parasitic Mind, by Gad Saad. He's a Lebanese professor. He's American, but he's from Lebanon. And this book is interesting. It's kind of about, he talks about like woke ideology as it's compared to like a virus or like a parasite that gets into the mind and sort of destroys the mind. So it's right up my alley here. It's basically just just describes how virulent and destructive woke thinking is. So I love it. I love the book, but I haven't got very far in this one either. I'm only 24 pages into this one. But most books reveal themselves in the first 10 pages. A lot of books, you read the first 10 pages and the rest of the book is just kind of going into detail about everything else. I know I keep looking over here because I've got my picture over here and the camera's over here. So it's like, who am I looking at here? Am I looking at myself or am I looking at all of you? I'm gonna move this over a little bit. Okay, is that better? Okay, so I got one more book to show. Oh, The Long Day Wanes by Anthony Burgess. He's the guy who wrote A Clockwork Orange. This book's pretty cool. Okay, again, how far into it? 45 pages. Okay, I'm only 45 pages into this book. This book's a trilogy. It's a Malayan trilogy, and it's kind of interesting. It's about a colonial period in Malaya, which is now Malaysia, and how the British, I don't know if they're British police or British military, was over there occupying certain territory, and they had a certain amount of influence in this little village. And so there's a little bit of drama going on with a married couple and a police lieutenant who is a big hulking kind of oafy alcoholic guy, and he's always trying to sneak a beer, and it's actually pretty funny. It's a funny book, and it lets you know a lot about this kind of Malaysian culture. And an interesting thing about Anthony Burgess is he's a linguistic genius, and he has practically invented many of his own words. And if you read A Clockwork Orange or have seen the movie, you listen to the way that Alex speaks in the movie, and he speaks in this kind of slang, which is a cross between like Cockney British street talk and Russian. And when I was at college and I was learning Russian, I took 3 levels of Russian. I learned all the words that were in A Clockwork Orange, like glazes, my glazes, her zoobies. No, zoobies are teeth, sorry. Grudies. She has some big grudies. Okay. Zoobies, your teeth. Glazes. What else? Oh, it was so horror show. Хорошо. Okay, so it's funny the way it was transliterated. The language was transliterated. Alex and the old in out. That part wasn't Russian, but there was a lot of words what was it? Oh, the Kruvi was the blood. He talked about the red Kruvi. Okay, that's all from Russian. So, Anthony Burgess is an interesting guy. He wrote another book called The Wanting Seed. And if you're into books like 1984 or Brave New World, Brave New World's another one I've been reading. If you like Brave New World or 1984, his book, The Wanting Seed, is a really good future dystopian novel that really measures up to a lot of the other ones. You know, like there was a movie called Children of Men, which was about a future time when, like, basically everybody's infertile and a woman finally gets pregnant. She's gonna have this baby, and everybody's trying to find this woman, you know, and they're hiding her so she can give birth to this baby. So the Wanting Seed is kind of like that. It has a lot to do with procreation and birth, and the thing about the Wanting Seed, it's like the political sphere actually moves in a spiral, and things go from being like totalitarian right to like extreme left, and it cycles around, and you just never really know where you're going to be or how quickly the new phases are going to come around. But it goes from a police state to like a really kind of puritanical kind of time period, and then it'll go into like this kind of paganistic, kind of a nihilistic kind of anarchy, you know. And so it goes through these cycles, and it has a little bit of what's that one about the canned meat that's like human flesh? People are eating people. Well, it's Soylent Green. So it's got a little bit about like Soylent Green, because they do that. They eat people. They kind of like make this food out of people. And part of the way they do it is they conscript these homeless people from a soup kitchen, and they kind of bring them into a back room and throw them on a train car and put them into the army, and then they put them on the front lines of like a World War I kind of like in the trenches kind of warfare. And really what they've got them doing is fighting their own citizens. They think that they're in a faraway country, and they're actually just down the street, and they put them against their own neighbors and make them shoot their own neighbors. And so it's the way that they control their population. So that's what the Wanting Seed is all about. It's about population control. And then there's a bit of the Soylent Green, because they make food out of people. It's been a long time since I've read that one. Oh, it also has, what's interesting about that is this book was written a long time ago. I think it was maybe written in the 50s or 60s. But they one of the things that the elements of the book, this dystopian situation, was enforced homosexuality and like socially enforced homosexuality and transgenderism. And so, you know, it's just kind of interesting to see how, you know, history has unfolded. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's prophetic about that book. And the enforced homosexuality and transgenderism all ties in with population control, which is interesting. Yeah, I guess I'm getting into it a little bit more than last time. I think that on the last episode, I was trying not to get into things at all, because if things are going to be on YouTube or whatever, you know, I have to be very careful when talking about a lot of these issues. So some of it might be a little bit more tongue-in-cheek. But, you know, we'll see how it plays out, right? So I talked about the books. Oh, one more book. Ye Old Holy Bible. This is the English Standard Version, and I've been reading Isaiah from the English Standard Version. What's weird is I had my bookmark on chapter 41, and I read from 41 to the end, and then I wasn't sure if I'd read everything before that, because the truth is I haven't read the entire Bible. Most people will lie to you and tell you that, oh, I've read the whole Bible 36 times and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Still don't believe in God. So, like, why would you read the Bible 46 times and not believe in God? Okay, so I've been reading it now from the beginning, and I'm going to read up to chapter 41, and then I'm going to move on. But I would say I've read most of it. But yeah, there's a lot I haven't read. But Isaiah, very interesting, prophetic, very much a lot of symbolism and speaking about different nations, and a lot of it's very abstruse, and it's cool. I like it. So, and I like the language of the English Standard Version. Actually, I like the King James Version more, because King James Version sounds powerful. There's power in those words, and so I like that. So, what's next for music? I went through books. It's not even all the books I'm reading. I've got more. I'll get to these in later episodes. But, so what's next with music? The band's on hiatus. Greg's off doing 2 other bands. It's funny. He doesn't seem like he's very happy with either one of these bands. And he and I still talk on the phone several times a week. And he complains about the other bands. And our band was going great. It's just, I understand. Our room was expensive. And the truth is, I'm actually relieved that I'm not paying for the room anymore. It kind of sucks that I don't have a place to record the album. So I'm not working on the album. I've got a lot of unfinished music on this. It's more like 3 albums. It's 4 albums. I've got like 4 albums worth of music that I was working on. I spent much of my time last year working on this music. And then some things happened. We got a couple of bass players, and I think the last time around, so a lot of the fun got sucked out of this project. And but the upshot is, my back is hurting. The upshot is we got a lot of good music in the can that needs to be worked on. And the problem is I can't really do much in this house because, like I said, I've got a roommate. I have to be quiet. I can't be loud. I can't have my guitar amp cranking. I can't be cutting vocal tracks in here. I'm going to have to figure something out. And so maybe JR will let me go down there and use one of the rooms for a bit, on occasion, so I can do some vocals or some guitar tracks. Other than that, I can do bass tracks here because I have one of those dark glass little preamp pedal things. And that works pretty good for recording because I've got plugins for amplifiers and stuff. But it's going to be kind of hard to do guitars at home. It's going to be hard to do vocals. I can do keyboards here. So I can do keyboards. I can do bass. And one of the things I'm thinking about doing is maybe getting my sequencer and my sampler kind of going again. And I'll start doing some kind of trippy stuff. I was talking about George Michael earlier. I've been listening to Grimes a little bit recently, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because Elon's in the media a lot, and I see pictures of him and his girlfriend, the mother, his baby mama, and whatever. She's a charming young lady, and I wanted to see what her music was about, so I listened to it. It's not very impressive to me. I think she's not so much of a musician as she's just somebody who kind of dinks around, with digital stuff, on the computer. But, she finishes albums and she's got a record deal somehow. And, to me, it's kind of mediocre. But, like all things, you can make lemonade out of something that's not great. And it inspired me to actually maybe start doing some Grimes type jams, like maybe I'll do something I can do in my bedroom. That's how Billie Eilish got started, right? And who else? Bjork. I love Bjork. I listen to her all the time, and a lot of her music sounds like something that could be done, recorded in a bedroom. Like a lot of it's just keyboards. What's weird about Bjork is that a lot of her stuff sounds like you could have just like, it sounds to me like she built all these tracks and then took the essential tracks out, and so what you're hearing is all these peripheral tracks, and I like that. For me, my favorite Bjork album is what's it called? It's the one with the black and white cover. I'm gonna look it up just because. Yeah, so I might do some electronic kind of music. When I did the Creep Show soundtrack, I did a lot of keyboards on that one, and it came out okay. It came out a little soupy. I might actually remix it. Bjork albums. What the? Oh. Vespertine. That's the one I like. I like Vespertine. It's got some really cool. It's got some really cool, just electronic sounds. And I'm checking my phone. Sorry, that's kind of rude. I shouldn't check my phone while I'm talking to you. But yeah, I sort of like the direction that Bjork went with Vespertine. And like, if I was gonna make a Bjorkish album, I would go, ha. No, I'm not going to try to do a Bjork impression right now. That was really bad. I could probably do it if I could be louder. I don't want my roommate to get concerned and call the authorities. So yeah, I'm not going to do a Bjork impression here right now. I'll save that for when I'm alone. I think we're alone now. I can do a Tiffany impression. But yeah. So maybe I'll start getting on the music again. See how good these videos are. They just kind of get me back into the spirit of wanting to, start being creative again and start creating things and making some content. I think I'm going to put out some rehearsal videos. That was another thing. I was talking about the Zoom recorders on the last episode, and the thing about the Zoom recorders, remember I was talking about I had 3 Zoom recorders. One of them will shatter if I drop it. The other one is a 6-track, and then I have a video one. So what I never got to the point when I was talking about that. So the point is what is the point? Oh, the point is that I've found a bunch of rehearsal videos that were taken at our last place, and some of them have our last bass player on it, so maybe I'll feature some of that. So I might put out some of that content this week, get some more Deep Tank rehearsals out, and maybe I'll mix some more Deep Tank rehearsals and get some Deep Tank stuff to where you can hear it. That way you can hear some of the stuff that's going to be on the upcoming album, and you can hear it being built. Maybe I'll put out some rough tracks of some of the stuff, and I'm just going to start putting out more stuff. So do like and subscribe, and go to our website, deeptank.net. Order a t-shirt. We got all these great t-shirts. deeptank.net. You got a bunch of shirts. Order one, okay? And I'll send it to you. I'll even send you a little note, personalized from me to you, okay? If you order a shirt from me and a CD, okay? Because we're trying to sell our stuff, and I need money, okay? So send it. Send me money. I send you music and clothes, okay? So I am gonna go now. It's been a long one, and I will see you next time. Bye.